Summer's back this time from The Difference Is Doing It. And look, I'm ready to come down your chimney with a holiday gift wrapped and ready to slip under that turntable. And I'm stoked, okay? Like always. You're going to be stoked too this time. Here's why. It's because our holiday gift to all of you out there in the TDIDI Army this year, other than, of course, you know, these two bad boys, which we got going on in our disc art giveaway right now, which you should know about that. If you don't, just hit that button that I put up on the thing right there. Bang, you're in there. But other than that, our holiday gift this year to all of you out there in the TD Army is a white-hot new edition of Other Basement Disc Dyers with 5-star TDIDI Army General Bryan Eckert, a.k.a. Pipe Dreamer 79, a.k.a. the Clear Glue Masta. Which, look, that deserves a ho-ho hell yeah, okay? Because if that name and that handle, Bryan Eckert, Pipe Dreamer 79, if that doesn't already start a reel of discs going in your head, I'll start them right here so you can check them out. Dude cranks out fire, all right? And in just a couple months, he has drawn the attention and in some cases the ire of pretty much the whole disc dyeing community. And rightfully so. I mean, check this stuff out. Dude kills it. He's obviously tapped into something special with his clear glue bed techniques. It's easy to see with these discs that are rolling by. Here's the good news. Lucky for all of us, the holiday spirit of giving just abounds in him, and he's willing to share all of his secrets with the rest of us in the TDIDI Army so that we can make some equally hot plastic, which is what I'm talking about. All right, here's what I noticed going through the footage, just to give you a little heads up. It's the little things, like the minutia, the seemingly insignificant details that easily can just like roll right by and not get picked up on, that make all the difference between like doing it and doing it well. Doing it and doing it and doing it well. Shout out to my man LL. But here's the awesome thing though. Like Bryan, he was cool enough to commentate his way through the whole thing and talk us through every step, which I can tell you from experience, it's a total pain in the ass. It sucks. So much, it's hard to fall into like a creative groove and to really make it happen. When you're talking through the whole, it's so much easier to just let the camera roll and then to do all that stuff afterwards, you know? But he's that kind of dude. He talks us through all of those steps and really exposes the devil in all those details that I'm talking about. So open up your notebooks and grab tight to your pencils, because this is going to be another masterclass from my main man Bryan Eckert on clear glue bed. It's not easy to whip that one out. I got it on clear glue bed swirls. All right, but hold on just 1 minute before we get this tutorial started, okay? One last thing before we roll it. Look, if you're one of those other basement disc dyers out there, like my man Bryan Eckert, and you've tapped into something special, something that you're just like, yeah, every time, you know it. Like, you know it when you know it, you know it. You know it. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Look, hit me up. Here's where I want the channel to grow, where I want it to go, how I want it to grow. I'll keep doing the giveaways every month because I love it and they're a ton of fun. And, you know, I'll keep trying to bring the hotness every time and to give you guys something special. But, like, what I really want to fill all that space in between with is showcasing all of the talent out there in the TDIDI Army. I mean, there are some super talented artists cranking out just righteous plastic with some killer things to share. So if you're one of them, I put like 5 different ways to contact me in the description below that no one ever reads. Don't be afraid to use one of them. And then, you know, we'll make it happen. And I'll cut up all the footage and I'll put a beat behind it and maybe some captions you can talk over it, and then boom, we'll take it right to Boomtown. And then bang, that's how, you know, the TDIDI Army, that's how the power of the TDIDI Army grows. And that circle of inspiration keeps on spinning. And people start thinking, the hell's that guy talking about? Bang! All right, before I totally forget what I'm talking about, if you're thinking to yourself, is he talking about me? The answer's probably yes. All right, hit me up. Do it. Now, pencils at the ready. Let's get into this masterclass with my man Bryan Eckert. I'm not going to come back on the other end, okay? I'm going to let Bryan close us out. But You'll see me again in like a week or two on the other side of the holidays with the giveaway results for these two suckers, which you should be getting in on. And, you know, if it's not before then, I hope all of you just have the safest and happiest of holidays. Yeah. All right, till we see you again, guys. Keep doing it.
Hello everybody, this is Brian, also known as PipeDreamer79, and I am teaming up with TDIDI to teach you guys how I dye a disc using clear school glue. I've had a lot of success with it, and it's my favorite dyeing medium. I've only been doing this a little more than 6 months, and I was trying all sorts of stuff at the beginning, like clear glue and school glue, white school glue and lotion, and everything has its place, but this is my favorite medium, and I'm going to show you more about how I do my things. First of all, the materials. You need your bed. I like using an El Cheapo Ultimate Disc from Walmart. Clear school glue. I got this stuff at Michael's for something like 12 bucks a gallon, but I've since then found a place that sells it online for 5 bucks a gallon. I've got these little glass vials. I bought these in the crafting department at Walmart in the beading section to store beads in, but they're glass, which is important when working with acetone because it will eat plastic. So I just scoop a little bit of dye into the bottom and then fill it up with acetone, shake it up really good, and then let it settle. That part is important. So there's my different dyes. I've got my worm dip, and on this particular disc we've got Prochem Bright Red, Fuchsia, Bright Blue, Lilac Violet, and Gunmetal. We'll talk more about color selection here in a bit. I have a shot glass filled with acetone for cleaning out my droppers, and some water. I've got a toothpick, some paper towel, and I've got my torch over here that will come into play later. Okay, so I have my phone mounted up on this tripod over top of my bed, and we're about ready to start building the bed. First, one thing that is very important that you need to remember, it is so important to carefully clean your disc before you dye it. A lot of makers like Trilogy and Castoplast, they're using this silicone-based release solution that they spray into the molds before they form the disc, and it helps them release cleanly. And this stuff is a nightmare to deal with if you don't clean it off. It will ruin a completely otherwise good dye job. I've heard all sorts of techniques for getting rid of it. I've cleaned discs using denatured alcohol and Goo Gone and hot soap and water and still had this problem until I started using a magic eraser. Get yourself a magic eraser, and I haven't had any problems with it since then. Moving on to making the bed. One of the most important things is I try to avoid air bubbles as much as I can. And most of that happens whatever you're pouring your bed. Make sure that whatever you pour your glue, you pour it very slowly. And you're trying to avoid getting little pockets of air as the glue spreads. I just saw a bubble, but it's moving out towards the edge. Hopefully this won't give me issues. And I'm gonna fill it up till it's just about touching the rim. And that should be sufficient. All right, so we've got our glue poured. There's a couple of tiny little bubbles, so I'll just try and get them with that torch real quick. Deal with that. Now, we're ready to add some color. I like to use droppers. I got this from old vape juice bottles, and I just try to keep using the same one for the same colors. And this is also why I keep a shot glass filled with acetone in between colors. Dip it in the acetone, suck it up, clean it out, then move over water, clean it out, and you'll hopefully avoid some cross-contamination with colors, especially like yellow worm dip. That's one of my favorite colors, but it's so easily tainted. Now, in regards to laying down color, my primary colors here are going to be pink, blue, and purple. So I like laying things out in sort of geometric patterns. I like doing 6 points of color. And now we're gonna come in with some blue. I try to avoid shaking up my little vials of dye, and whenever I suck the juice out of it, I get it off the very top. I try to avoid particulates in the solvent. And then I'll come in and fill in between those. And now let's go with some violet. Crap. Well, this will become an exercise in fixing things on the fly. Oh well, we'll work with it. Now, I'm gonna go back, get another pinkish, and start filling in some gaps. It's all gonna get swirled together. So now, let's go in with some lilac and start filling out around the outside. I like symmetry and balance, so I try to be consistent at first on this layer. Now, one of the drawbacks to working with acetone when you're dyeing is it will eat a stamp up, and sometimes I like to preserve the stamp. But acetone is a two-edged sword. It'll eat a stamp, but it also evaporates very quickly. So if you just take your time while you're making your bed, by the time you're ready to put that disc in, most of that acetone's gone. I just dyed a Halo Shrike the other day that I was really excited about because normally those halos, the stamps look cool, but the foil gets so easily fouled. But I built a glue bed and just waited after I put it together about 20 minutes for all of the acetone to evaporate, and it worked out perfectly for me. So let's see here. Oh, we need some gunmetal. Now, stuff like these neutral colors, they can be tricky, and if you use too much of it, it's not fun, but they can add some really cool effects. And I'm gonna go around from the outside. Got these little gaps here in the middle. I'm gonna fill those again. It looks like it needs more blue, so I'm gonna add some blue. Okay, and now we're about ready to swirl. So whenever I swirl, I like to do it a couple of different ways. For my first layer and my first swirl, I kind of like to do this figure 8 pattern and rotate my bed. And just slowly work your way around the whole disc. And it kind of builds these ribbons of color. There we go. So there's our first layer done. And when you swirl, you create all these little gaps in the color. If you want your disc color underneath to show through, cool, leave it that way. However, I like to try to pack in as much color as I can. So looking at it overall, it looks mostly purple and pink to me. So I'm gonna come in first with some blue and try to fill these gaps. That's enough for that. I like to try to leave the ribbons in the middle alone, because sometimes they just look really cool. Now, let's come in with some more violet. Now, I try to place the colors that I want blended in close proximity to each other. I don't like to use heat whenever I soap, because heat causes the dye to disperse through the glue and the colors to blend more. I like to keep it on a nice long soak, like 24 hours at room temperature. And that seems to preserve some of the fine detail better. I need to get some more bright red up in there. We'll dot some of that in here. We'll come back in with some gunmetal. Now this is the point of the bed where I want to start looking for the last big gaps to fill. This can get quite touchy. Trying to control your dropper so a very small drop comes out and doesn't just spread like crazy. Sometimes I really like how it spreads, but other times I don't want it to spread much. Like, let it form a drop and then touch the dropper to the surface of the glue for a more controlled placement. All right, we're ready to swirl number 2. When I do this, I like to try to be sort of meandering and almost random about it. I don't want to disturb these big ribbons of color up in the middle. Sometimes I'll break them up, but I like to mostly focus on the dots that I put down the second time that I put dye on the bed. So just kind of work your way through. And take a look there. Now at this point, I'm looking for holes in the color. I don't see a lot. And I like to try to break up as much of these big chunks of color as possible. All right, that looks pretty good to me. It's about time to send it, but let's talk a little bit about the right way to send it. As I said earlier, the acetone is a double-edged sword, and especially with Innova discs, they have very soft foils that are easily messed up. So we want to make sure as much of that acetone is gone as possible. And I'm looking around for air bubbles. There's a couple there here in the middle. But when you send it, you will possibly create more. So the way that you set this down is you hold it like this, and you want to try to land the disc on the same angle as the shoulder and slowly work your way down and watch for it to touch. Once you've got contact, then slowly lay it down and let those air pockets slide out. Because if you drop it too quickly, you're gonna get little pockets of air that get caught and bubbles that you have to touch up later. I don't put any weight on my discs. I just make sure you've got glue that comes up and touches the rim, and then I leave it sit just like this at room temperature for 24 hours for like Star Plastic or Castoplast K1 or Opto, any premium plastic. For your harder clear plastics like Champion and anything clear, I would give it 48 hours. So we will check back in after this is soaked and see what we've got. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is time to clean this disc off and see what she looks like. So for cleanup with this method, I would just recommend keeping your dish in the sink, have some dish soap, and I love to use this sponge. It's a scruffy side and then a smooth side. Both of them are very useful for cleaning gunk off of these discs after you pull them out of beds. So anyways, you just grab it by the sides, slowly lift it up, and then you'll feel it release. Ta-da! There we go. So now, let's move this bed out of the way. Here we go. Just turn some hot water on it. Use the scruffy side of the sponge, and not even push down. Just move it around. Now, the trickiest part of this clean off is this goop that you get around the edge. You're really just best to Just scrub and scrub and scrub. You'll feel it'll eventually go away. Just be persistent. Put some elbow grease in it, but not too much elbow grease. Now, while I'm cleaning this off, there was something else that I wanted to mention that I forgot to in the last section where I was dyeing the disc. When people choose their colors, we generally want to avoid brown in most cases. And that's another reason I really like this clear glue bed technique, is because if you drop your color onto the bed and let it set in before you swirl it and don't use heat, a lot of the colors stay separated. It's whenever you go adding heat and things start spreading out that you'll notice a lot more browning. So it makes for some interesting possibilities. Like, I wouldn't use orange and purple lotion in a lotion bed together, but I could probably get away with it in a glue bed if I'm mindful about where I put it and don't put them directly on top of each other. But anyways, I still feel a couple little spots, but we can clean those later. And there we go. Looks pretty good to me. I only see one air bubble, so that's definitely a score. A couple here on the edge. That's fine. I'm probably gonna spin an edge on this anyways. If you have any residual glue, it usually happens right here. Yeah. And just keep scrubbing till it's gone, but not so much that you scratch up the surface of the disc. And this was not quite a 24-hour soak. This was about 20 hours or so. And you could probably get away, especially with plastics like Star and Castoplast K1, you can get away with 8 hours, or I've seen people use even less than that. But to me, if I want a dye job to last a long time and look more vibrant, I don't know, because I've only been doing this 6 months, but I would rather try and pack as much color as I can into this plastic, and then hopefully it'll hold up and stand the test of time. But anyways, so here's our cleaned up disc. Cool, right? Well, folks, there you have it. I hope I did at least a halfway decent job of explaining my process a little bit better about how to dye discs. Now that I'm kind of starting to get this whole recording video thing done, maybe I'll start streaming some stuff on my Instagram. Anyways, if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Instagram, PipeDreamer79, Reddit, the same handle, or you can look for me on Facebook. I'm in the Disc Dyers group. My name is Bryan with a Y, Eckert. Enjoy, keep working on this, don't get frustrated. Things happen. Things don't work out how we hoped, but one of my favorite teachers used to always tell me, true learning only happens during moments of failure. Otherwise, you are only confirming what you already thought to be true. So you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. Dyeing discs is not some mystical art. I am about the least artistically inclined person you could imagine. And this just happened to be something that I picked up over quarantine, and it wasn't hard for me. And if I can do it, you can do it too. So if you need any help, reach out. I'd be happy to help you the best I can. So till then, keep doing it.